How are we, everybody? You're very welcome along to tonight's Late Night Agenda. Appreciate you guys coming in to have a chat with me as always. We're going to be focused on the main news stories around the Reds. It'll probably be another one of those downbeat evenings, but we'll try to put a positive slant on it where we can. But let's be honest, things aren't great at the minute. 1-1 draw home to Sunderland isn't really going to change any of the doubts that many of us have. So tonight we'll go through it. We'll talk about transfers. We'll talk about incomings, outgoings. We'll talk about the long ball. We'll talk about how easy Liverpool are to play against and lots of other bits and pieces. As always, though, appreciate your time and do let me know what you guys would like to discuss in the comments. Apologies that I got the first poll right. I was trying to write it too quickly, or wrong, excuse me. I was trying to write it too quickly and it said east instead of easy. But the poll question that I want to kick off with tonight is kind of following on from the conversation we had on tonight's podcast, where we basically asked, is this Liverpool team too easy to play against? I think personally that we're too soft, particularly in the middle of the park. So we'll kick it off with that one tonight and we'll see what you guys are thinking. Latte Top said, Isak and Ekitike look bad because Slot has stifled them. He can't coach nines, our attack is robotic and we can't turn games around. Klopp made Slot look better. I mean, it's hard to argue against what you've said around the number nines, mate. How could I? He brought in Isak and he looks like a stranger. Like, he doesn't look like anybody knows what to do to get the most out of him. He's coming in for stick for it, but genuinely, I don't think a lot of the blame lies on Isak's shoulders. Now, some of it does, of course, but I think, like yourself, it's more down to do with the way we set the attack up, the way that we have no clue of how to get him involved in the games. So yeah, I agree with you in a long-winded kind of way. So I have so many things tonight I wanted to go through, running from the good, the bad to the indifferent. We're going to talk about transfer link. We've been linked to DIOMANDE of Leipzig. We'll talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about Joel Ordonez as well, the Club Brugge centre-back. Paris Saint-Germain have ruled themselves out, apparently, of being interested in Canade, so that's one less option for him. We'll give you some words from our captain on Florian Wirtz. We'll talk about Jayden Danns. Good news is that he's back doing some ball work now. We'll talk a little bit about Liverpool and Canade's contract situation. We could have a problem with Mark Gay, which we will discuss as well. Mohamed Salah has been linked with a move to the Saudi Pro League. Once again, we'll ask, is there any truth to that? He's also been linked with a move to the MLS, by the way. And a few other bits and pieces, including what the media had to say after Liverpool's latest disappointing performance last night against Sunderland. So look, here's where I'm at, ladies and gentlemen. I fully expect that the manager is going to keep his job for the foreseeable, but I don't think it's going to get any better. And I think that ultimately this is just a waiting game now. It really feels that way. Even speaking with Chris on the podcast today, he would have to be one of the more upbeat Liverpool fans and more optimistic ones. Yeah, even he's scratching his head trying to figure it out. That's what I feel like at the minute. It feels like we're just going to have to tough this out until he gets fired. Because truthfully, and I've been racking my brain trying to think this through, I don't know of a manager that's turned around a situation like this. Now, it is a rather unique situation in itself, coming in, winning the league, and then spending the amount of money we have and going backwards. And all the blame doesn't lie on Arne Slot. I think that's important to put out there as well. But nothing looks like it's turning around. And it feels to me like it's going to have to get worse before it gets better. And that's a horrible thing to feel like you have to come out and say. But honestly, I think it's the way it is. We're not 5-6 games into a season now. We've played 14 or 15 games in all competitions. And there are really no signs of this change in direction. Yes, we stopped the rot by getting a win against West Ham, but let's be honest, they're not very good. Then we had another home game against Sunderland, a newly promoted side, and we were lucky to get off the pitch with a point. Only for Fede Chiesa, we could have lost that game as well. So for me, I truly don't see what Arne is doing to turn this around. And if you are Arne in, I absolutely respect your opinion, but genuinely would love to know what people are saying here, because it feels like it's just a matter of time, in my eyes, till he gets fired. Right, so let's get through some of your comments. What have we got? Let's start with Slot is stubborn, said World of Naturalist, and didn't have the foresight to see the trend from last season. We laughed off set pieces and long throws. All of them have increased in importance this season, and I think Slot has underestimated the Prem. There was an interesting piece in, I believe it was the Echo, a few weeks ago, World of Naturalists, where they spoke about sitting and watching a training session that the Reds had over in, I think it was Japan, in pre-season, and that they were working on set pieces, they were working on long throw-ins, they were working on those type of things that have become fairly prominent this season. But ultimately, they stopped, and it was left on the cutting floor. And how bad a decision does that look now? Where, look, I didn't know the league was going to be this set piece oriented and this long ball oriented this season. I don't know if anybody did. But to know that we had started to work on it and then kind of threw it to the floor and backed off, yeah, that's not great. That's not great at all. Matthew said, Craig, thank goodness we have you by our side as we endure this calamity. It's so tough. Like, we all know that everyone's going to be in a bad mood when we start doing the streams and we talking about the Reds at the minute. It really is, tough sledding. But it's what we have to do, right? Because we have to get each other through it, as you've said. It doesn't look like the club are going to take any swift action on it. And look, I'm open for positives. We ended the podcast today by me asking the two boys, give me something. Give me anything to be upbeat and positive about. And we struggled. We really did struggle to come up with any genuine positivity. Yusuf said, is it Yusuf? It is Yusuf. Said, when Liverpool don't win, Slot's only excuse and answer is it's not easy to play against a low block. Dude, you're very right. Look, what I've heard after games lately has quite simply astonished me. What Curtis Jones came out with last night, and Curtis, I think, has spoken pretty honestly most of the time, but to come out with the type of crap we heard last night, we had lots more shots there at the end of the game. Okay, is that supposed to mean something? We had 23 shots and 4 on target. They had 9, I think, and 6 on target. We're just so wasteful. And we're wasteful because we are literally just lumping in aimless balls. It's just so pointless. There's no... It's like vibes we're playing with. It feels like Arna wants us to keep possession and just hope that something good happens. Hope that somebody has a moment of magic. Hope that Szoboszlai can pull out a worldie from 25 yards out. It doesn't seem like we have patterns of play that are going to be incisive and break open teams. And that's, again, that just leads into my belief that this is just a matter of time till the manager gets fired, because he seems incapable of turning it around. Surely it's Slot's job to find a way around the low block. Absolutely, Yusuf. 100%. Dude, you don't get to drop the type of dough we did on attacking players and then come out here and bitch and moan about low blocks. He broke the British transfer record twice in one window, which in itself extraordinary. He's brought in Ekitike on top of that. He spent £200 million on centre forwards and £116 million on a number 10. So the excuse of a low block is absolute horseshit. And again, it just lets us know he doesn't know what to do. It's really, really difficult. And Chris was at the game last night again, and I asked him what the atmosphere was like. It's getting bad inside Anfield because people know what they're looking at. Despite all the false positivity that we're seeing put out there that the manager isn't under pressure, I'm going to make a statement that I want to know whether you think it's true or not. Arne Slot, despite winning the Premier League last season, I don't think has the buy-in from the fans in the way he should. I don't think that they fully admire, back, trust him as much as we would expect. I just don't think that he has the same connection with the fans. Now, of course, I'm not talking about all the fans, because inside the stadium you've got varying viewpoints. But everybody that I'm speaking with has been talking about a rising discontentment in the stands, a frustration at what they're seeing. And James Pearce, just before halftime last night, was tweeting that Anfield was growing restless because it was just turgid, and it was slow, and it was boring, and it was dull, and it was lifeless. That is not Liverpool. That is not the football that we've become spoiled with and accustomed to over the last 10 years. The hopeful guy said Slot has no connection to the fans. He's not using the low block as an excuse. He's stating honestly that we're struggling to break it down. It's much of a muchness though, in my eyes, El Stew. You know, he's talking about it being a problem. And he's talking about it for quite a while now. It's his job to find solutions, mate. You know? It really is his job to find solutions. Now, I've run through a few interesting articles today that have brought up a few things that I wanted to discuss. And the first thing I want to talk to you guys about is the emphasis that there is on direct play this season and the percentage of opposition passes that have been long against teams. And this is quite telling. So this is a Sky Sports piece, and it said there have been more of an emphasis on direct play in the Premier League this season, but Liverpool have faced long passes at a higher rate than any other team. Liverpool are facing 18.22% of their passes against us, long passes. So teams are intentionally going direct. Arsenal are second on the list, but they're still 3% behind Liverpool. Liverpool teams are attacking us with long balls, and it has grown season on season. This season, 18.2% of all the passes played forward towards Liverpool are long. And we know why that is, because we're weak there. On top of that, I've looked at the press, and I've looked at some of the stats that Sky Sports have put in around their press, and our press has dropped off. Here are some of the numbers behind that, and I'll put this graphic up on screen actually. I'll put it up on screen so I can show it to you and discuss it at the same time, so bear with me. Right, here we go. So I'm going to put this center of the screen so you can see it as we're discussing it. So as you can see, last season we were averaging 8.08 high turnovers per 90 minutes. This season, that's dropped down to 7.28. Last season, possession won in the final third. We were winning the ball back pretty much 4.4 times a game. We were winning the ball high up the pitch. This season, that's dropped down to 3.93. Pressures in the final third. Last season, we had 120.53 pressures in the final third. This season, 107.14. Counter pressures last season, 91.37. This season, 83.65. So as you can see by that graphic, and it's just a snapshot, but you can see that every aspect of our press is off from last season. We're going backwards. It's getting worse, not better. And he's taken that press away. That press was one of our most effective and useful tools over the last few years. It's not rocket science. If you win the ball back high up the pitch, you've less distance to go to the opponent's goal, and the likelihood of a good chance coming from it is higher. So it's not your imagination. It's not my imagination. We are seeing Liverpool team working less hard than we're used to. And again, this tone is set from the manager. The pressure and counter pressures are the main issues here, said Alex. All of it, mate. We can look at the metrics and we can look at so many things for Liverpool this season, and there's nothing that I've seen yet that we've improved on from last year. Everything seems to be unfortunately trending in the wrong direction. Again, what's the common denominator here is the manager. You know, he brought in players, and you'd have to say that they would have looked at those players, they would have looked at the press, they would have looked at their attributes and think they fit into our system. But we have absolutely nothing to show for it. It all looks so convoluted, sorry, is probably the word I'm trying to find. Your stats are bang on, Craig. This is why I know what a lot of fans are saying, but I look at it differently. He's trying to implement less energy wasted possession-based football and not doing a good job of it. You know, because what you want to do in possession, of course, is you want to tire the opposition. You know, anybody who's ever played football before knows the saying, let the ball do the work. The ball can move across the pitch a lot faster than you can and tire your opponents out. We have to earn the right to use the talent that the players have. That was the key and the cornerstone of Jurgen's philosophy. Press the shit out of the opposition, smother them, and then let your talent shine through. At the moment, whatever Arne's trying to do, and I'm not sure exactly whatever it is, but it's all over the shop. It's It's not a death by a thousand cuts kind of passing, get through opposition. It's just possession for possession's sake, and it's ineffective. Double line or double L line said, Craig, would you take Gerrard as a temporary solution? I'm so sick of Slot. My nan could do a better job. No backbone, no passion, no accountability. I would, yeah, but only temporary. You know, people kind of get upset when I say this, and I understand why. But I have to emphasise, yes, I would, but only temporarily. Now, what temporarily means? Does it mean till, January? Does it mean till next summer? I don't know the answer to that. But one of the main defences for Arna that I've seen from people that don't want him gone yet is, who are we going to bring in? Right? You've probably all had these conversations with your mates or on forums or whatever. And that is one of the defences against sacking him. Is that good enough reason, though, not to keep him? Or not to fire him, excuse me? Because we are in decline and we're not going in the right direction. So I don't see why keeping him because we don't immediately have somebody there is a better solution than bringing in somebody who can at least stop the rot and get us winning the games we should be winning, which is the likes of that game last night. And it was only by the grace of Federico Chiesa's hard work that we left there with a point. We should be sitting here talking about a 2-1 loss, but Fede worked his backside off to get back and ironically save the manager his job, probably. Alejandro said, it makes sense to keep the ball around and protect yourself from too much strain, but what we're doing is madness. We refuse to counter-attack at all at the minute. No threat at all. I said this to the boys on the podcast. Do you know the chance I'm talking about where the goalkeeper pings it long and Sunderland had the chance to win it and Fede gets back on the line? The irony of that is that used to be us. How many times have we seen Alisson do that? Where we're defending a corner, Ali comes, claims the ball, pings it to Mo, or pings it to Mane in the past, or somebody else, and Luis Diaz say, we're in on goal, bing bang bosh, job done, goal scored. It was a very Liverpool type of move. We've seen Mohamed Salah peel away at Old Trafford, score goals like that, where Alisson pings one straight down the middle. So if anybody should know about the dangers of that, it should have been us. And it was just one ball again, straight through the middle. It's crazy. 9 defeats in 14 games. Exactly, Paul. Or to make it sound even worse, dude, 4 wins in 14 games. 4 wins. I don't even know how this is a debate between fans anymore. If you don't give a shit about how Liverpool get on, fair enough. You can say you don't want the manager fired. But if you really want the best for the team, I don't see how we're better served by keeping this guy in a job. I really don't. He just doesn't have it in him to turn this around. And again, like I said at the very, very start, I don't really remember any manager turning it around when it gets to this point. The usual way this plays out is it'll be up, down, up, down, up, down, and then eventually gone. But I can't think of anyone who's turned it around. I really can't. Sir Alex Ferguson maybe back in the day was close to being fired at United and turned it round. But that was not when he'd won a league title. This feels like the reverse of the situation it should be. If we were sitting here last year and Arna had just come in, I think there'd be a lot more goodwill. Ironically, because it would be his first year. And we'd say, oh, he's getting used to the Premier League. He's, getting used to what way to set up. But this is a man that came in and won the league. And now we look lost. It's tough. Who will be our top goal scorer this season? Wow. That's usually the easiest question to answer, Mohamed Salah, end the conversation. But this year, God. Salah, Gakpo. I don't know. Depends if Salah's still here by the end of the season. I'd be surprised if anyone breaks the 20 goal barrier. Put it that way. Kai said Gravenberch has escaped a lot of criticism this season. Yeah, we discussed that the other day. I mean, Steve Nicholl said something, I think on ESPN, Kind of backing up, Kai, exactly what you've said, mate. That one of the players who has gotten away with any criticism really has been Gravenberch, and you're not wrong, you know. But here's the hard part. I don't think there's too many people that we couldn't criticise this season. Outside of maybe Dominic Soboslai, I don't really know of, and Hugo Ekitike. Outside of those two, I'm struggling to think of anybody we couldn't genuinely say hasn't been good enough and have merit to it. Cal said, Craig, majority of our goals and assists last season was via Mo, and we knew it was a problem. This season shows Mo to Arna was Suarez to Rodgers. The rest is history. It's a really good point, mate. It's a really good point. And again, Cal, I'd say probably, mate, the irony of that is that the whole idea of what we did in the summer, bringing in your Isaks, your Ekitikes, your Wirtz, was to counteract the fact that we didn't want to be overly reliant on Mo. And now all of it looks bad because Mo unfortunately hasn't been himself. And then the rest of the lads haven't hit the heights we would have hoped for or expected yet. And it's just flat all over. So it's a really good point. You know, it is. And I'm starting to be won around to the idea that he got lucky last year. And you know me, you've been watching this channel for ages. I've been defending Arnott against those accusations that it was Klopp's team and he got lucky. And I'm starting to feel like he kind of is. He kind of is lucky because now that he has the chance to put his own stamp on it, he hasn't got a Scooby. The Rookie said, I love your channel. Thank you, bro. Very kind of you. Thank you, mate. Hope you're well, Craig. Huge game Saturday for Slot. The preview for that is coming out at 10:45, by the way. The preview for the Leeds game. Lads, I think we're going to lose on Saturday. And I haven't put that in my preview because I was back and forth on it. But my gut feeling is we lose this game on Saturday night. And here's why. Leeds have got a great win the other day against Chelsea. And that will fill them full of confidence. And they're going to smell blood in the water. You know, we aren't the machine that we used to be. They know. Their fans are going to know. Ellen Road's going to be up for it. We know that. And they're going to start quick. They're going to start really quickly. And Leeds are a team that work very hard on and off the ball. And I don't think we have the stomach for it. I really don't. I think we're too soft and we don't have the stomach for this fight. And I think Saturday could be ugly if the lads don't show up. It could be ugly. So, wow. I don't remember a poll this one-sided, ladies and gentlemen. I really don't. So, I've asked you guys to say, is this Liverpool team too soft and easy to play against? Wow. We'll let it go a bit longer, but wow. There's one-sided and there's unquestionable. What do you think was the cause of this downfall? I don't think there's one magic fix-it-all switch, Luke. What I would say to you, mate, is I think there are egos involved. I really do think that. I think some people aren't buying in to what Arne's trying to do. And I honestly think there's also some confusion of what he's trying to do. I said on the podcast, and hopefully, Luke, you give it a watch later on, mate, and you'll see where I'm coming from. But I said something smells wrong. Something just doesn't feel right around the club in general. Now, I don't know what that is. So for me to guess would be just that. I'd be guessing. But something just doesn't feel like everyone's pulling in the same direction. I feel like there's some splintered personalities in that dressing room. And I don't know if people agree or disagree. And like I said, I cannot back this up with any type of proof because I'm guessing. But it just, for all the talk of being together, getting through it together, working through it together, fighting together, that's just words. We're not seeing that on the pitch. You know, we've gone through some of the metrics from this year. We're not pressing as hard. We're not working as hard. We're not running as hard. We're not playing as hard. And you can't con the football in public. Like, Liverpool fans know what they're looking at. They're not idiots. They know what they're looking at. And they know it isn't good enough. Also, today being the day that's in it, we should acknowledge Diogo Jota's birthday as well. We should have been just genuinely wishing the man a happy birthday today, but instead we'll honour his memory by wishing him a happy birthday. And of course, our thoughts are with his family, his wife, and his friends and teammates at this moment as well. I'm sure this is a day that weighs heavy on a lot of people. So, I just wanted to mention that as well. I know, Will said, we have a team made for counter-attacking, but we want to play like Pep. That is what we're shite, right? That's why we're shite right now. So, I actually don't think the team is made for counter-attacking, and I'll do my best to explain why. I don't think we have the pace to counter-attack like we used to. That's what this team in attack for me is screaming out for. It's just more pace, simple as that. There was a couple of occasions last night where I seen Mohamed Salah or Cody Gakpo, and you can pick a few more, and they're just standing there in front of their man one-on-one, and they can't go past them. They can't knock the ball past them and run past them. And then you counteract that, and you look at Sunderland attacking Joe Gomez last night and going around the outside of him and tempting him into a foul that ended up getting a booking. We don't do that. Why not put Rio on the pitch? Why not have Rio take on a man? Why not give him the opportunity to get a player booked? These are just things that I can't figure out why he isn't trying. We keep hearing out a pathway being blocked for Rio. The biggest block for Rio was the manager. It's not signing another player to come in, because we haven't signed a Diaz replacement. And you've all seen the lack of minutes Rio Wengamoa has gotten. So we either have to accept that we're going to have to sit through this whole season without Rio being used, and that the club are willing to write off a year in that area of the pitch, or we're going to have to be grown-ups, put on our big boy pants, and say that the manager has shot himself in the foot with this bollocks. You can't block a pathway for a player that you don't deem good enough to play right now. That's doublespeak. Because if you truly had faith in the young man, you'd be putting him into games like last night, where it's screaming for a bit of pace, a bit of trickery, something, a dribble. Take a man on, get into the penalty area, try to draw a foul, do something other than check back inside, pump in an aimless cross, check back inside, go left, go right. It's just predictable. It's too predictable. Celebrating before the league was finished, bad idea. 100%. And I said as much last year. I wish sometimes people would just listen when I say things rather than jump down my throat. Because I say things with a reason. And, we're now seeing that. You can't just have full intensity, switch it off, and think you can just turn it back on again like that. That's not the way the world works. That's not the way psychology works. That's not the way sport works. We acted like a small club allowing this shit last year at the end of the season. And it's biting us in the ass. So for all these things that we're constantly told, that we're not a sacking club, that we're a club with standards, the opposite has been the case. We're seeing no standards and no accountability. We're seeing a manager getting way too much grace when he should be fired. It's all words. There's just too many words coming out of our club that have nothing. We should be a sacking club because he deserves to be sacked. You don't get a Blue Peter badge for being the good guy. We're a laughingstock. People don't want to go to the games as much. All of this will have a knock-on effect. All of it. But, that's what I said at the very start of the stream. We're going to have to just tough this out for the time being. Lee Johnson said, you mentioned Sir Alex earlier, and I think he's the best example of bringing in youth. If he had this Liverpool side, Doak, Rio, Dans will be playing. Well, look, Dan's, to be fair to Arna, not really on him because he's been out injured. But you're not wrong. You're not wrong. And he would also have moved on players that he knew were getting to the end. So tonight we're going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to see what the media have had to say. So I'm going to start off, if you hear me out, and I'm going to take you through some of what the journalists wrote after Liverpool's performance last night. So Lewis Steele of the Daily Mail writes, and this is on the Echo, so you can have a look at this yourself if you'd like. They always do a piece where they give you a snapshot of what the journals are saying the day after the game. So narratives were skewed by results. So a 93rd minute goal line clearance from Federico Chiesa has probably saved Arne Slot another hammering from the fan base and trial by media in the next few days. But let's get this straight. That was another stinking performance from the Premier League champions. Whether Wilson Isidore converted that clear-cut last gasp chance when he charged through on goal and seemingly had the freedom of Anfield, or even if Liverpool had sent the Kop into bedlam with a stoppage time winner at the other end, that sentiment would remain. This is a team sleepwalking to a write-off season in the league at least. They're out of the title race. 11 points is too much for even serial chokers Arsenal to cede, but we'll take solace from the fact that they're only 2 points off 4th place Chelsea. So that's what Lewis Steele had to say. Chris Bascom in The Telegraph writes, not for the first time, Anfield could hail the most impressive recruitment team in the Premier League. Take a bow, Sunderland. Had they been in attendance, John W. Henry and his Moneyball disciples might have led the standing ovation for their well-earned point. Sunderland paid £155 million for 14 new players in the last transfer window, creating a vastly improved team that have come from the Championship to the fringes of a Champions League place. Liverpool, in contrast, paid £450 million to go from being champions to the most expensive work in progress since the Gaudi Cathedral in Barcelona. They certainly have no resemblance to the side who were building the foundation of the title success this time last year. For Arne Slot, the road to wherever this is all leading to is not yet taken. The most harrowing chapter of his management career is still to reach a definitive conclusion. Richard Jolly of The Independent writes, having shown too little ambition at the start and too much at the end, Liverpool were carved open by one ball forward from goalkeeper Robin Roos. Chasing a game they at least claimed a point from, a losing position for the first time this season. Yet while they ended up with the first draw of the campaign, an unwillingness to settle for it almost cost them. Because really it was Sunderland who were denied victory. We had this opportunity to score the second goal, Ruud Regis Lebris, who went on to say that the score of the decider against Stamford Bridge a few weeks ago came close. And finally, the Echo, the biggest cheerleaders and fanboys of the manager in this football club, write this. The Echo. Perhaps the most shocking thing about Liverpool's latest setback, and that is what a 1-1 draw home to Sunderland must be viewed as, was that this is no real shock at all. In fact, nothing in this most mishappen of seasons truly surprises anyone. So failure to beat an upwardly mobile Sunderland side, one who have shown no respect to reputations upon the return to the big time, should raise very few eyebrows. And that, at its core, is the most worrying aspect of all for Arne Slot, who saw his team fail to build on the semblance of normality that was provided by Sunday's 2-0 victory over West Ham. Just 4 wins in the last 14 fixtures across all competitions is cause for grave concern. The longer it continues, the more forlorn hopes of Champions League qualification become, and while it is not exactly out of sight right now, a continuation of this sort of sequence will have the European Cup and its accompanying riches drifting towards the horizon before long. Slot sent in Chiesa to join Hugo Ekitike for the closing stages, but a point was the sum of their efforts. In a season of recalibrated ambitions, it is hardly fatal to the Champions League hopes, but draws are simply defeats with better PR for a club like Liverpool. That last line is absolutely spot on. Draws are simply defeats with better PR for a club like Liverpool. Every one of those journalists knows what they're looking at is dross. You know what you're looking at is dross. The club know what they're looking at is dross. So why are they maintaining the status quo? I really can't figure it out. Let's face it, Gakpo's useless, but he's Dutch. Look, like I said, There are many players who have been below it this season, and Cody is one of them. Yesterday was the first time that I personally felt disappointed with Cody's performance. Like, I've defended him on a lot of streams, a lot of player ratings, but he was dire yesterday. Shocking. So one-dimensional, so predictable, just not good enough. But how was that rewarded? Did he put Rio on? Nope. Of course not. Don't want to block a pathway for a player you don't want to play. Make it make sense. Oliver the Turn, said, tired of not seeing Chiesa on the field, really starting to frustrate me. I don't blame you. You're not on your own, bro. And as I said, like, the irony of this is he probably saved the manager's arse last night. Because he had ground to make up. What's that chance back? Your man had 6-7 yards on Chiesa at one point, and Chiesa busted a gut to get back and defend. Do you know what I loved about it? The celebration, man. Did you see the celebration? He turns to the Annie Road end and he fist pumps after that block. And they responded to it because they know what they were looking at. They knew they were looking at somebody out there who gave a shit. Somebody who was working his ass off to stop us from losing. And how's the manager being rewarding this? But basically sticking 2 fingers up to him. Off-White said, Salah won the Prem for us, hence why we suck now. Look, Salah had a brilliant season last year, and without him, we certainly wouldn't have won the league. No argument on that one. But I keep coming back, mate, to what we were supposed to have been doing this summer, which was to protect against that over-reliance on one man. And it's just gone the other direction altogether. Nomad said the stadium roared when Chiesa blocked it. Absolutely. Paul Beer said Chiesa gets only crumbs, yet saved Slot. Lee Johnson said Slot is in a position where he could play Chiesa and Rio without complaints from the fans from the form of Salah and Cody as being poor, so he has the chance to take the risk on them. Exactly. And it's stubbornness at this point, isn't it? That he isn't. It's crazy. So look, let's move through some of the other news. Let's talk about transfers for a couple of minutes. Graham Bailey, and it's been reported by a few others as well, have said that Liverpool are being encouraged to try push through a January deal for RB Leipzig sensation Yan Diomande, with the Reds actively looking into a potential move. And he said Team Talk understands that information. Team Talk basically understands that that's the situation. This is promising, as is the links to Antoine Semenyo. So let's wait and see what happens. But honestly, I don't want this manager being in charge of any players that are brought in. I just don't. Does anybody think he can turn it around? Like, really, not want him to, because we all want him to. I want him to. Connor wants him to. Chris wants him to. But does anybody really, really deep down think he can do it? I take no pleasure from saying I don't, but I don't. I feel like Jerome said a year from now, Slot will be a DJ in Ibiza. Look, I said this jokingly, but partying with Wayne Lineker should have been enough to get him fucking fired. Like, I don't know how he thought that was in any way a good idea. But yeah. Craig, if Slot plays Fede and Rio and we're still shite, who do you blame then? The same person I'm blaming now, the manager. I don't think, Brian, mate, that it's a coincidence that every player, bar maybe Szoboszlai, is underperforming. I don't think there is. That's what I'm saying, Brian. He can play Chiesa, he can play Rio, he can play whoever he wants. I just don't think it's going to be saved, bro. I just don't think anything is going to turn it around for him. Because I don't feel he has the buy-in from the fans or some of that dressing room. Remember, the players are going to come out publicly and say all the right things. Of course they are. They're going to come out and be upbeat. They're going to come out and say they support the manager. But you know what can't lie? Their actions, their performances, their work rate, their efforts. That you can't fake that. And we're seeing that on the pitch. We're seeing poor performances, underperforming players, players who look lost, players whose confidence is through the floor. John said, was at the match last night with my 11-year-old daughter. For the first time, she was so excited, just terrible. Well, one, I'm sure it was a lovely father moment with your daughter, to bring your daughter there. So nice one on that, John. I'm delighted for you both on that. But I get it, man. I get it. You're not the first, and I dare say, mate, you won't be the last to say to me that you're disappointed in a scenario like that. So many people. I know people who've gotten tickets for the first time in 5, 6, 7 years who don't want to go or are dreading going to the game now. Chris has been at a lot of games this season. George has been at a lot of games this season, one of our regulars in the chat. A couple of others in our Discord group are season ticket holders. They're all reporting back the same thing. They're all reporting back a discontent in the ground, a frustration at what they're seeing, and a real lack of fight and effort. And like I said, you and I can't change this. The club or the manager are the only two that can stop this situation. And the club at the moment seem unwilling to face the reality of it, which is that he's just lost out there. Giant Gift said, I think Slot is better than he's given credit for at the minute. He understands football better than all of us. Of course he does. I mean, that shouldn't be in debate. A coach at that level would absolutely understand football better than all of us. But is it not concerning to you, mate, that even the man that we've just given that credit to can't figure this out and still doesn't know how to defend long balls, still can't get her set pieces right, still doesn't know how to break down a low block or how to set up an attack to do it? It feels like he has one way of playing and that way is ineffective at the minute and it's just not changing. So, yeah, of course, there's no denying that he knows what he's at. He's a top-level coach, of course he does. But he's not fixing it. That's my point, he's just not fixing it. Hey Craig and chat, just when you thought we could start building a little bit of momentum off the back of the West Ham win, we're back to shite. Yep, back to shite. In the easiest run of fixtures of the season. Let's not forget that important part. Let's rewind back here a few weeks. We had Forest, PSV Eindhoven, West Ham, and then we had that game last night against Sunderland. And we were all talking about 4 wins, building back confidence, easiest run of games. Whooped by Forest, whooped by Eindhoven, beat probably the worst team or the second worst team in the league, West Ham, and then we're blessed to get a point last night and probably should have lost the game. Only for Fede and a bit of bad finishing. In the easiest run of fixtures. It is not going to get better than this. And he can't turn it around. That felt like a loss last night. This from Tipperary is spot on. I haven't seen this fan reaction since Hodgson. Exactly. So Chris said something similar earlier on. He was talking about the Rafa days, the Hodgson days. They all had an excuse of at least they had Hicks and Gillette as owners. The club didn't have the money. They didn't have the ability, particularly for Hodgson, to go out there and bring in any type of decent players. The club were in a rut. Jurgen fixed that. The owners fixed that. They got us to the top of the mountain. And we thought we were destined for more of that with Arna. And somehow, for some reason this year, it's unravelling. And it's unravelling at a scary pace. If Bradley is fit to start, would you drop Canale and play Gomez at centre-back? Oh God, yes. Absolutely. Anything that can get rid of that lad off the pitch at the minute, I'm for. Whether it's throwing Endo in, whether it's putting Gomez at centre-back and Bradley at right, anything that gets rid of that absolute calamity at the minute, yes. He's shockingly bad. And he was at it again last night. Another one bounced right in front of him, past him. And Virgil's getting worse as well. There's not much to be positive about at the minute. Sunderland have 9 new players, I'm pretty sure. 14. 14, mate. 14 new players. 100. We went through them a minute ago. I think, which journalist was it? Was it this one? Yeah, Sunderland paid £155 million for 14 new players. They have no problem with cohesion. Do you know why? Because they're a better coached team. And that was apparent last night looking at the game. Sunderland players knew their jobs. Sunderland players knew what was expected of them. Sunderland players knew where each other were going to be. Sunderland players are pulling together, fighting together, working together. And they're better coached. You know, let's give them the credit. They were better coached. And that's to the manager's credit. At Anfield. Newly promoted team. And we're blessed to have gotten a point. How the standards have fallen. Right, so 97% of over 1,300 people that voted said yes, we are too soft and too easy to play against. Uzi LFC said welcome to Anfield Agenda, mate. Sorry, you didn't say anything, but welcome to Anfield Agenda. Bad form is like an illness. It spreads. Canade's issues are starting to rub off on Virgil. Defo. It does. And then you second guess everything. And you take that extra touch. You think a bit longer. Everything becomes a little bit more difficult. Things that are happening naturally suddenly don't. I couldn't agree more. It is like an illness is a really good way of putting it, mate. Lucho and Nunez used the press aggressively from the front, like Mane and Firmino. The lack of pressure on Sunderland's back 4 or 5 last night was appalling. Absolutely agree. You know, we had many things that we were unhappy with from Darwin, but that press wasn't one of them. You're right. Same with Luis Diaz. And our press looks awful. You know, we ran through some of the numbers earlier on. It's just not right. It's every metric of that is down from last year. And we're running less. Chantalata Mohida said, he needs to go. Too much disrespect towards fans and some players. We've been playing ugly football for a long time with no signs of improvement. I can't disagree, mate. I can't disagree. Thank you for your membership as well for 22 months. I can't disagree. You know, how do you go out there and spend £125 million on a striker and then have no idea what to do with that striker? Have no idea where to put the ball for him. Have no idea how to coach the players into his runs. Have no idea how to put early balls across the 6-yard box. No idea. He looked lost out there. And here's the kicker. I don't think it's on Isak. I think Isak's fitness and match sharpness is a thing. But the criticism that Isak's coming in for, I don't think it's on his shoulders. I think it's on the manager's shoulders and the players' shoulders around him. Nobody goes from being that good to that bad overnight. Nobody. There's always a reason for it. The senior players should be ashamed of themselves. Instead of being examples, they're doing the opposite. The new players have more fight to win. Slot doesn't know how to play them. Just crazy. Uzi said, Ekitike and Chiesa are the only attackers that could replace the press. Agree. Now look, we don't know about Rio. To be fair, we don't know what his pressing ability or lack of would be because we haven't seen enough of him. But you have to get everybody to buy into the press. So whether we think Isak is normally a pressing centre forward or not, you've got to get everybody to buy into it. Because the press is a structure. One person doing it doesn't work. 2 people, you press in packs, you hunt in packs. And there's a lot of it that you can see is just not right. Here's a question for you. So I'm going to ask you, do you think the players believe Slot will lose his job this season? And here's why I'm asking it. I think there's some of those players out there believing they'll outlast the manager and believing that the next manager will come in and things will be better. I'm not saying they're downing tools, but I am saying that some of them feel like they're accepting this for the greater good, if that makes some type of sense. Because these are not the players we've become used to seeing. These aren't the players. We've never, ever looked at these lads and called them anything other than mentality monsters, hard-working players who time and time again have showed the courage to stand up and be counted. And they ain't doing it at the minute. And I don't think that's an accident. I just don't. The game last night, Ali caught the ball and was looking to throw it out, but nobody was on the halfway line. I think we need the old long ball and stop all this playing at the back. We need to just revert to our old selves. And if the players that came in can't press yet, well then they're on the bench. Everybody needs to buy into this. Everybody. And that includes the new players. But they're not. Because I don't think they have belief in the manager. I can't get that past that in my head. Despite what they'll say publicly, I really do not think a lot of these guys have faith in the manager. I really, really don't. Grizzly said, do you think we got too many guys in the Bundesliga can't handle the pace or physicality and looking average? No, because let's look at the three players that we brought in from the Bundesliga, Endo aside, but in recent times. We brought in Ekitike, who has absolutely been up to the fight. We brought in Frimpong, who has been injured and we're still not really sure where he plays yet. We brought in Wirtz, who was always going to take some time to adjust to it. So I don't think it's even that. Yeah. I look, I don't want to knock the Bundesliga or any other league. It isn't the Prem, that's fair enough to say. But look, for me, the buck stops with the manager. End of. That's how simple it is. You know, Wirtz was the best player in Germany. Wirtz was getting man of the match in Champions League 5 times last season. And he's come to Liverpool, looks lost with the manager. Ekitike has been the best performing new forward. And he's been benched for the last 2 games. Make that make sense. Your best performing, hardest fighting forward, who the crowd absolutely love. And you bench him twice. I don't know what to say about that. Sorry to say, but losing Jota is a big part of this. No, it's not. That's a fucking lazy excuse, and we need to stop talking about it. I lost my father and mother, and I was in work a month later. People lose loved ones all the time. That is a bullshit, lazy, cowardly excuse to say that 5 months on, that these lads can't put in a fucking shift, that they can't run around a football pitch with 60,000 people behind them. They can't muster up a performance. And I'm supposed to sit here and think that that's because of the tragedy with Diogo? No, it's not. You could have said that for the pre-season, for the start of the season. But now it's absolute bullshit. And it's so cowardly. So cowardly to say it. Man up. Man the fuck up. or fuck off. You know what I mean? Man up. Deal with it. And if you are struggling, speak about it and get what you need. But just trying to paper over the crack with this lazy excuse of a man's tragic death as an excuse. No, I'm sorry. It's just lazy. And it's pathetic. You know, if anyone's struggling, and we've said this so many times, speak up, get the help you need. It's cowardly. And I'm sorry, I'm not having it. It's bullshit and it's disrespectful to his memory. Every person loses a friend, a loved one, and life goes on. You have to go to work. I have to go to work. Everybody has to get on with it. Don't remember this when we won the first 5 games. Don't remember the excuse then. It was, let's win it in his memory. Let's celebrate Diogo's life by going out and winning the league this year. Then as soon as things start going bad, this lazy arse excuse gets trotted out. Alisson lost his father. His father. His blood. And came back, scored a header that got us into the Champions League and performed. And he couldn't even go to the man's funeral. So if we're going to talk about excuses, I'm sorry, man, that ain't it. That ain't it. That's so disrespectful and unfair. So look, there's so many people in the chat saying some variation of Jota would be fuming if you could speak out of it. Of course, even saying that as the excuse, it's the type of excuse a coward uses. And to be fair, the players haven't used it. So I'm not having a pop at the players, because the players haven't tried to use this to excuse their performances. It is a factor on the dark cloud over our season, of course. But it's only fans that have been trying to use this as an excuse. Some fans. The players have never used it as an excuse. And credit to them for that. Sunderland are doing well, to be fair. They are. But we're Liverpool Football Club. We had ambitions of a treble or a quad or a double this year. And now we're talking about a draw home to Sunderland somehow being a good result. Come on, mate. Come on, bro. We won the league, spent £500 million. And we're talking about a draw home to Sunderland as being anything other than unacceptable. I'm sorry, man. That's not our club. Who replaces Slot? No idea. Not my problem. And I mean that sincerely. It's not on you or me to find the next manager. That's not our job. You know, these lads are paid a lot of money. A lot of money to make these decisions. And what they're doing now, they'll dress it up as brave, not pressing the panic button, but I think the other way. I think the honest thing to do is to admit that it's a shit show. And nobody wants it that way. But, you know, banging your head against the wall saying this, somehow magically this is going to change. It doesn't look like it. And we're a third of the way through the season now. It's not 3-4 game blip anymore. It's 4 wins from 14 games. 9 losses in 14 games. Think about that. 9 losses in 14 games. With $500 million spent. And the record broken twice. And we're sitting here giving this man excuses? In the summer, we wanted a double. We wanted domination. That was what was expected. That was the pitch from the club. Putting together a squad that could dominate domestically and challenging the European front for years to come. Were we not told that was the plan? And now all of a sudden when the failures are starting, revisionism setting in, you know, this is not our club. We have standards. They are not being maintained by the manager or the players. It needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed swiftly, or it's just going to continue. World of Naturalist said, the club just don't want to own up to their failures by not sacking Slot. This will make us fall even further if it doesn't stop now. What do we benefit from being this we don't sack the manager club? What does that get us? Oh, good, Liverpool do things differently. Cool. Is that better than European football next season? Not for me. I'll rather be the club that sack the manager and at least try to address the problem, rather than stick the fingers in the ears and go la 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 la. We're the club that doesn't sack managers. Where am I? This one. Spend 400 million but somehow don't have decent wingers. And to go further than that, my friend, don't want to block the pathway for Rio, but won't play him. But think so highly of him that the club don't want to replace Diaz, but won't play him. How does that make sense? Do you think when Barcelona were bigging up Lamine Yamal and talking about him, or Estevao at Chelsea, they play him because they know he's a prodigy, they know he's a really good young footballer, and they play him? We're talking about a pathway that we're the only ones actually blocking by not playing the kid. The manager shafted himself this season by giving himself, again, the same situation as last year. Look to the bench, don't trust what's on it, won't use them. Grizzly said, would I trade Mo for Xabi? I mean, it's such a silly thing to talk about, realistically. Like, would I trade a player for a manager? It's never happened in the history of football. The actual question there is, should we get rid of Mo? That's the real question. And that was actually asked on Sky. And there's a poll running on Sky. And 70%, from when I clicked into it, said yes, Liverpool should now move on from the Mohamed Salah era. And we'll talk about that in a moment, because there is some links and stuff. Feel so flat at the moment. Hope you're okay, mate. Yeah, look, I'm all right. You know, like everybody else, I'm flat, like you've said. The downside for me in moments like this, and I'm sure I'm not alone here, is, and this is nothing to brag about, but Liverpool to me dictates a lot. You know, it dictates some of my moods. You know, it dictates how I prepare for the streams, and the results have a big impact on most of our well-beings to some extent. But you know what hurts me the most, Corbin, is that in moments like this, I know I'm going to come on and be met with people who feel the same way I do, who are hurting. And when that happens, a couple of things happen. People turn on each other at times and fight and argue. Or people just give up. It's really difficult to even do these streams at moments like this, because you know that the people you care about, the people that tune in every night and give you their time, they're also in pain and suffering and frustrated. And I can't do anything to fix it. You can't do anything to fix it. We're passengers on this mad journey that we have no control over. And so many of us can see clearly that it isn't working. And we look ahead and we just see kind of future frustration and pain for the near foreseeable future, until eventually we get to that stage where he's fired. Because that's where this is going. I don't see any other outcome. So it's just a matter of when. Oliver said, got so mad when I seen Slot laughing and joking. Same, but it wasn't just him. Canada was at it as well at the end of the game. So people are going out of that stadium frustrated, flat, and the manager's joking. People can say that's fine. Maybe, and again, it's a personal thing. Some people look at it and think just having a light-hearted moment with an opposition player or whatever. I look at it and think that doesn't mean as much to you as it does to me. Fuck you. That's where, honestly, I'm not going to lie to you, that's where my head goes. You don't care as much as I do, and you're the manager. Because I couldn't be on there sitting and joking with, or laughing and joking with somebody after a team that I've just sent out and I've coached put in another horseshit performance at Anfield. I couldn't do it. But then again, I couldn't have gone to Dubai on my holidays in October when the team had lost 3 on the bounce. You know? Uzi said, I know Inzaghi makes 26 mil net, but maybe if we come calling he'd want a job. So look, make no mistake about this. We are Liverpool Football Club. Most, if not all, managers in the world would be absolutely over the moon to get this job. And I'll go one further. Any manager that actually has that about them will look at this squad and go, I can get a tune out of those players. Because let's look at this. Wirtz, Alisson, Isak, Ekitike, Soboslai, McAllister, Gravenberch. These are good footballers. Salah, Virgil. These are good footballers. This manager's making hard work out of something that should be fairly fucking straightforward. So, you know, someone said to me the other night, do you think Semenyo would come in? Do you think Mark A would come in? Well, if I was them, I'd be thinking, I'm going to come in and be the guy who makes us more solid at the back. And I'm going to look great. And my value is going to go up. Now, imagine if we fired Arne Slot and somebody comes in. I don't know who the next manager is. Let's just throw a name out there. Sebastian Hoeneß. Let's say Sebastian Hoeneß comes in and wins his first 3 games. His stock is going to go up and up and up. So I actually think it is a hugely appealing job and that this man is making it look harder work than it needs to be. Brad, how are we, Brad? It's not going to be long before the fans start to riot outside Anfield like the United fans did when they wanted the Glazers out. What do we do? Look, nobody is ever, on this channel anyway, going to urge fans to riot or get aggressive. But the atmosphere inside Anfield paints the picture. Liverpool fans have always been acknowledged as being knowledgeable footy fans, right? Same as United fans. Knowledgeable footy fans, most of them. You can see it's flat. Fans aren't buying into it. But they're losing it. They have respect because they're respectful people. They don't want to boo. They don't want to jeer Arne. And they want to show support where possible. They sing his name. They do what they can. But they really aren't. It's just, the vibe ain't there. You know, so many people. And look, you will all know people who attend games. Ask them what the atmosphere's been like. Ask them what the people around them inside Anfield are feeling like and are saying. Because Carragher said something a few weeks ago that he was surprised at the amount of friends or family or people who attended games and that they weren't as backing or as blindly supportive of the manager as he would have expected. There has to be a reason for that. And it's not because Liverpool fans are fickle, because we know they're not. They're just not idiots. They know what they're looking at. Maverick said, I think they want to be like Arsenal and give Slot 2-3 years, and the fact that Slot won the league in his first season is keeping him in the job is safe. But here's the difference in my opinion. Arteta always was building to something. I don't see that with Arne. We're regressing already in year 2. So came in year 1, won the league. Arteta came in, won the FA Cup. But Arteta has always built Arsenal back up since he's been in. You know, they were a club that wasn't in the Champions League. And he's put them back into that consistently. He's had them second place consistently. He's assembled a team that buy into what he's doing. We weren't the project when Arna came in. We were pretty much there. We didn't have to build to anything. We had to add a little bit more quality, and we had to maintain standards. He's undermined all the good work. So, I just think we're going backwards, and I don't see that progression. Look at Jurgen's time. Nobody expected him to come in and win the league in his first year, and he didn't. But he always progressed. You could see what he wanted to do. You can see what he was trying to do. You could see it visually. You could understand the system. And yes, there are going to be mistakes. There are going to be things that, when you're changing stuff around, don't work. But again, I come back to this really simple thing. I would challenge anybody to describe our style and tell me what he's trying to do. Because I can't even see him describe his style in match press conferences or anything and describe what he's trying to do and what we're not doing right. Because all he says is, long balls are beating us, set pieces are beating us, we can't figure out a low block. None of this is about the style that we're trying to implement. Always about how other teams play against us, never how we play. Teams coming to Anfield, we shouldn't give a shite what way Sunderland come to play. It's our gaff, we're going to enforce our will and our philosophy on you. Not the other way around, but this manager's thinking is backwards. It's small club mentality. That's the way I see it. The real Johnny Sins hates. Said, was at Ellen Road yesterday, Craig, with my mates. I remember you saying that, yeah, after school. What a night, successful hate watch too. Leeds battered Chelsea. Let me give you a follow-up. Are you confident now with us going there on Saturday night? You've just gone, as you've seen, and you've watched them beat Chelsea. And remember, Farke was under pressure. Leeds were in the relegation zone. And they went out there and put in a performance based off hard work and honesty of effort and beat them. So are you confident going there now that we're going to be able to deal with that? Because I'm telling you, mate, I'm not. I'm very nervous about it. Slot said in a statement, and I can't remember when he said it, we were only winning by the odd goal. I wish we were winning by that odd goal now, said Paddy Wacker. He's clutching at straws at times, talking about XGs and shit. Like, well, we had 23 shots. Yeah, 4 on target, mate. It's just all tough. I'm baffled why he changed it so much tactically. Do you think it's an ego thing and he didn't want the Klopp comparisons and style of play? So, what he did in year one was kind of clever. He didn't fuck about too much. He made some changes. Up to you whether you think they were for the good or bad. But he got a job done. Now it's the time for him to put his stamp on the team. Now it's bringing the players that will implement your philosophy. But what is the philosophy? That's the simple question that none of us know the answer to. No idea what this philosophy is or the way he wants to play. So I wouldn't say ego, but I would say stubbornness. Stubbornness is, what I would say. But that celebratory partying and Ibiza bullshit, that's ego. That's arrogance. That's, we don't need to win these remaining league games. We don't need to be professionals. We're off on jolly ups to Dubai and Ibiza. That's bullshit. That's absolutely tin pot small club nonsense. It's like we're so shocked at winning the league. It's so unusual for us that we're going to have this mad big sesh. Not, well, we won that. Now this is a nice feeling, boys, isn't it? Let's go and do this again. Let's go out here now and show this was no fluke. No, party, big up, waffle, nonsense. No excuses. It's just, again, where are those standards that we're supposed to have? Daniel Roberts, and thank you. Happy anniversary, mate. With us a year as a member. Appreciate that. I don't think Slot ever resonated with the fans. I don't think so either. I don't. Look, it was always going to be a difficult task because you're coming in after God, pretty much. You know, you're coming in after a hero. So you got to be your own man. No problem with that. But you've heard me use the phrase when I talk about Zidane quite a bit about being a good fit. I don't think Arne is a good fit. He's a good, humble, honest man. Of course he is. And he's not brash and he's not arrogant out there. But I just don't think there is that connection. You know, I might be wrong, but I don't think that connection's there. In the same way that you would maybe expect it to be there for a manager who's delivered a league title. Johnny said, to be fair, I'd absolutely rather Klopp over these two, but thinking realistically, couldn't get him. I don't think we could get Klopp. I don't. Unfortunately, but, you know, it is what it is. Craig, what are other people on YouTube saying about us? I imagine they're laughing at us. So, as you can probably imagine, I haven't really been proactively looking to see what others outside of our own fan base are saying about us. But what I can tell you is the handful of YouTubers that I am friendly with and are mates with, the League Gunners of this world and some others, they're messaging me, not to banter me. They're messaging me saying, same as me, going, what on earth is happening? What's going on at Liverpool, mate? How have you gone from that to this? You know, remember Drawdy, Ben? In the summer, he messaged me when we did our transfer business and said, congratulations on winning the league title for the next 3 years. It's scary what you lads are doing. That is one hell of a team. And now, he and my other mates are bantering me going, the fuck? How did this happen? He's clueless, talking about the manager. That's kind of the honest answer to it. That's where I'm at with it. So I definitely don't go looking for other people to get their opinion on it because I don't need to. I know what they're going to be saying. They're going to be saying that we're a laughing stock. Chris said, I just paid under 1k for 2 hospitality tickets and disappointed to hear Slot was laughing and joking a full time. You know, I paid about £700 sterling for my Manchester United ticket, as did Brian, as did Vern, as did Laurie, the people I was there with. So between us, £2,800 for 4 tickets. And I don't need to tell you what happened. The only saving grace for me, and look, I don't know, Chris, what your experience was, but I've said it before, I'll say it again. The thing that rescued that day for me was the staff at Anfield. The hospitality staff. They were incredible. Wonderful people. So good with everyone that was there. Couldn't make people feel more welcome. Real Scouse hospitality. Class. Every single one of them. Yeah. That's what saved my day, without any doubt, was the quality, the friendliness, and the hospitality showed by the people that worked there. I couldn't speak highly enough of them. They were magnificent. So yeah, I'd be interested to know if you had a similar experience because, they made that day memorable for me. The football didn't, but they certainly did. Stargirl said, Dutch League is so different to ours, hence the problem. But we knew that when the manager came in, But here's the thing, and I think, Stargirl, I think it was your good self that said this. Remember when Arne became Liverpool's head coach? And we'd gone through all the managers who were looked at, and, Xabi was mentioned and a few others. Do you remember the thing from the club was, after running through the data, it was looked at and believed that there would be less upheaval stylistically when Arne came in, because his style of football is not a million miles removed from Jurgen's style of football. High press, high intensity football. What happened to that? Where's that manager? Because if that data showed that, it ain't showing it now. What's happened to him? What's happened to that philosophy? If I see even half of what I saw yesterday from those Leeds players, we're getting pulped. Chelsea were absolutely bullied and rattled. We're cooked. Yeah. And that's my big fear, is that we won't even match Leeds' work rate and effort. And then, you know how it works, dude. You all know how it works. Same with Anfield. Robbo goes into a crunching tackle, the whole stadium's up, snarling. You're not getting at him from this. Ellen Road's like that. If those Leeds players start quickly, snapping into challenges, pressing us up the pitch, that's going to be one difficult atmosphere. And we're not up for the fight. We haven't been up for the fight. So when we play a team like Leeds, that's when I'm at my most worried with this group. Because Leeds are going to fight for every ball. They're going to run their arses off. And that crowd are going to be right behind them. And they're going to be confident, having beaten Chelsea. And they're going to want to double up on that. So I'm equally as worried as you are, dude. Craig, will you be watching the toy show heading down to Waterford for it? No, I won't, man. Look, it's an Irish institution. But, my kids are too old. My daughter's 21, my son's 13. Maybe when the grandkids come around in the future, but not for now. But I think Garen Noon is going to be on it, which is really cool. Jacko said, Enrique is probably the only Klopp-like guy to get. I don't think we'll be able to get him, though. So what I've been told by people who watch a lot more German football than I do is that Sebastian Onus is the guy. Is the Klopp-style guy. The motivator. Now, like I said, I don't watch German football enough. But people that do, that I've spoken to, really, really, really do speak so highly of him. So, keep an eye on that name. Else do you say Garen Noon is a legend? Oh, he's so funny. He's great. I don't know him personally. I'd like to get to know him personally at some point because I think he's hilarious. But yeah, I'm happy for Garen. He deserves it. He's brilliant. Right, let's get through some more transfer talk because there's plenty I haven't got through yet. So, also from Team Talk and Graham Bailey, Liverpool and Chelsea have both checked in with Joel Ordonez's camp in recent weeks as they consider making a move in January. Club Brugge are open to a deal for the Ecuador defender. This from Le D Sport in France said Paris Saint-Germain will not try to sign Canade. So Madrid's off the table. Bayern's probably off the table because it looks like Upper Maguire might sign a new deal. And Real Madrid's off the table. So Canade's options are starting to get quite thin at the top level. Virgil van Dijk, speaking about Florian Wirtz, said this: "There's a very good reason why a club like us bought him. He's an outstanding world-class player in my eyes who can only become even better, but it will take a bit of time. For him, he has to stay level-headed. Don't get too high, don't get too low. Don't get dragged into the outside world of when it's very good or very bad, and don't get dragged into a numbers game." Lewis Steele, reporting on Jayden Danns, gave us a little bit of good news. He said Jayden Danns is back on the grass doing ball work and could be back fit early in the new year. The forward had minor surgery on the injury and there is hope it won't recur. So fingers hope for him because he hasn't been able to catch a break, young Jayden, with injuries. Virgil van Dijk, speaking about Mohamed Salah, said he's still a fantastic player and we still have to remember there's a reason why he's been so successful at the club and we have to respect that. I need him around as one of the leaders. I'm not worried. He's disappointed, but that's absolutely normal. If you're not disappointed when you're not playing 2 games in a row, then there's an issue as well. But it's on to the next game now. That's always been the case. No one is undroppable. It's not like you have unlimited credit. Everybody has to perform. Mo has been doing that, but the manager made that decision in the last 2 games. We all want the best for the club. I'm pretty sure Mo will still be a big part of what we're trying to achieve because he's an amazing player and shown it consistently. We're all trying to find consistency, and he needs to be in the best shape, and we need him, and that's what we're trying to find. So, he says, I need him around as one of the leaders. I don't see any type of leadership from Mo. He's not vocally fronting up the camera. He's not addressing the situation. I don't see that leadership. T Mills, 87, welcome, mate. Appreciate you. Giant Gift said, Slot will turn it around. It's a process, I guess. Is it? What's the process? Other than throwing out vague phrases, what's the process? You think he'll turn it around and it's a process. Please explain what that process is, because he seems lost to me and it doesn't seem to be getting better. So if I thought there was a process to trust, I might be different, but I don't see it. Lewis Steele said, Liverpool remain committed to renewing Ibrahima Konaté's contract, with Real Madrid now cooling their interest. However, Konaté's future remains in the balance. Other clubs are interested, and the 2 parties have so far seemed apart in their expectations. So even when he's being dog shit, he still thinks he's worth more than the club's offer. How this lad hasn't been shown the door yet, I don't know. I don't know why we're falling over ourselves to try and keep a player whose head's been all over the shop and wanted to go to Madrid. Again, club that's supposed to have standards is being trounced on by another player who's looking for a way out. I don't like this. Football Insider said that Manchester City are now leading the race to sign Crystal Palace defender Mark Guéhi, as they lie in a long-term successor to John Stones. Liverpool are still in the mix with other top clubs, but City are pushing hardest for a deal. Crystal Palace do not want Guéhi to leave on a free, with 35 million believed to be enough to secure him in January. Fikahes have said Liverpool are now open to selling Mohamed Salah and would be willing to accept a suitable offer for their once untouchable star. The Saudi Pro League has been billed as the most likely destination. The Egyptian king has been on a run of 53 consecutive starts in the Premier League, but has been benched by Arne Slot for the last 2. Another article here said that if Salah doesn't move to the Saudi Pro League, then San Diego FC is described as the outright frontrunner in the battle to sign Liverpool's ageing talisman. So that's some of the transfer stories that have been in the papers today. Where am I at? This. Uzi said, I do hate how some of the clubs dilly-dally to not sack managers. If this was Barca, Madrid, AC Milan, Juventus, he would have been gone months ago. You know, exactly. See, nobody's coming in and saying he doesn't deserve to be sacked. Nobody's coming in and saying he's figuring it out. This is what I'm saying. The defence is he won the league last year, or Liverpool aren't a sacking club. I've asked this question for 5 days, and nobody that I've seen has explained to me why he shouldn't be sacked from a footballing perspective. So, I asked you, do you think the players believe that Slot will lose his job this season? And 79% say yes. I think they do as well. And that's why I think some of them aren't doing the hard yards. Alejandro said we really should be eyeing up Rodgers for the summer. If you're talking about Morgan Rodgers, he just signed a new deal at Villa, which I would say makes it pretty hard to get him out of there. Harry said, why do I feel like we're starting to become a shadow of ourselves? Seems like clubs don't fear us now. Well, you feel like that, my friend, because that's the case. And they don't fear us. They're licking their lips at playing us now. You already have a target in your back when you're the reigning champions. But you throw in wobbly form and underperforming stars, and that's just a recipe for other teams to come out and build confidence. Like, can you imagine if Leeds beat us on Saturday? How their fans are going to feel having beaten Chelsea and Liverpool in a week? Daniel Farke probably can't believe how lucky he is getting us at this time. What's happening with Mark A? The last information that I have that I passed on to you was that Mark A, in my understanding, had given his word to Liverpool. But like I said at the time, and like I repeat now, it's football. Things can change. Things do change. I don't know if Mark A is still destined to come to Liverpool, or if he's having a wobble and thinking, well, this project's going off the rails. This isn't the team I thought I would have been joining. Will this team be in the Champions League next year? I don't know the answer to that, mate. But I also don't think he should be joining Manchester City, especially when they don't know the outcome of these charges yet. So, truth is, it's fingers crossed time. Alejandro said, true, Craigo, he has renewed, but what a signing that would be. I don't want us to throw 70 million on Semenyo. Well, we could get a Rodgers type at least. Look, he's a great player. Morgan Rodgers is a very good player. But look, for me, it's as simple as this, Alejandro. We should be lining up a quick centre-back signing for the very start of this transfer window. And not let's drag it out for the whole of January, trying to go back and forth with Palace for a fee for Mark A. I mean, balls out, have it in the works already, that when it opens, we're straight there. Because we need somebody quick. Where are we at? This one. The real Johnny Sins hates said Paqueta won us that game on Saturday. Even with 10 men, Bowen was literally a yard away from equalising with the 10-man West Ham. Yep, you're right. And last night we got the point because of Chiesa and because of the Sunderland forward not finishing off a pretty easy chance. So yeah, even at that, he's getting little bits of luck here, but none of it is because we're getting better. Chris Tukey said, I fully agree, Craig, with your comment on the hospitality staff. Amazing. Even my wife enjoyed it. I was at the United game as well in Brody's. Fully agree. We were in the Sevens Lounge for that one. But yeah, I'm glad you had a similar experience, Chris, because, I do tip of the hat to the staff. Incredible staff. The real Johnny Sin said, Dominic Calvert-Lewin going to have a field day. Our centre-backs will shit themselves. That's like the epitome of a piss take. If Calvert-Lewin scores against us, lads, just give up. Him or Daniel James. That's like that's banter levels at that point. Newcastle with 10 men, we were lucky, said Paul. Yeah. And the irony there, Paul, is who won us that game with that magic moment? Now, look, there were two parts of it. There was the gorgeous step over from Dom, and then there was the really, really cool, calm, composed finish from the youngster that the manager doesn't trust yet, but we don't want to block a pathway for. It's crazy. That should have been Rio's springboard moment. That should have been he's arrived. Confidence wouldn't have been any higher than it was at that point. Throw the kid in, let him shine. Stargirl said, I feel for Chiesa. What more does he have to do? If he goes to one of our rivals, I would be annoyed with Slot, not him. He wants to play football. You speak very much on behalf of the majority of Liverpool fans there. We don't know the answer to that one. We may never know the answer to that one. But for whatever reason, Arna doesn't feel like Chiesa's the guy. And it seemingly hasn't looked like it's going to change. He scored goals, important goals when he's come off the bench. Last night didn't get a goal, but absolutely saved us a point. And he did that because of his love for the club and the fans. You've seen the celebration, the fist pump. He gets it. The dude gets it. And that's why, even when he wasn't playing, the fans are singing a song in his name. Because they get what he's about. They know a good, honest, hard-working player when they see one. And that's what Fede is. So it makes the treatment he's getting from the manager even more confusing. When will one of those useless journals ask Slot why doesn't start Chiesa? You know the answer to that question. You know the answer, mate. I've said it over and over again. They're not balanced in what they do. A lot of them, in my opinion. You know, it's that's all I have to say in it, because the more I say in it, the more I get in trouble. Mash Blends LFC said the fact Slot has a job bothers me. Love from New York. Yeah, same, mate. Same. Because there's no justifiable reason for him to have a job. None. Not on merit. You've gone backwards and continue to go backwards. And whatever he's done to try and allay it, whether it's drop Mo, whether it's change system, whether it's bringing in a load of talent, it's just gone backwards. So I want to give you guys a quick update on something that I've held off late on. So I was telling you guys about the situation with the office / shed, and we had a meeting today with the planners from the county council, which I would only describe as a productive and positive meeting. We're not out of the woods yet. I got to state that, but they were very impressed with the quality of the build work. It's within the sizes that it should be in. And we're all working to try and get the outcome where common sense prevails, but it's also within the rules. So I will let you know more when I know more. But it was a very positive meeting from the outset, and I feel a little bit more relaxed about it. And because we're so close to it being finished, which we are, we're maybe 4 building days away. We've pretty much got the nod to finish the build anyway. But I just want to say as well, it was a productive meeting, and they are trying to work with us to resolve the situation with the best outcome. So, I'll keep you guys informed after that, but fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. The real Johnny Sins said, Craig, our fan base needs to do what United fans did to Moyes in 2014, hound him out, make the atmosphere so toxic for him that it forces him to go and do one. Oh man, I don't think I don't want to see that. I get what you're saying, but God man, I don't want to see that inside Anfield. These, like we've said before, and we've all said it, that's the release for so many people. They work hard all week, and that's their time. That's their time to switch off. That's their time to dream. That's their time to fall in love with the game again. That's their time to be together. That's their time to be unified. Yeah, man, I really hope it doesn't get to that point, because that's, like we've said about switching on and off form, it's hard when it gets to that level as well to get it back, and I don't wish that for the fans. Craig, can you explain the Harvey Elliott story? What does the 2 or 3 teams signing in the UK you're talking about? So you can't play for more than 2 teams not even in the UK. He can't play for more than 2 teams in the same season calendar. So the only options for Harvey would be stay at Villa, come back to Liverpool, or go to a league like the MLS or the Saudi Pro League that have a different calendar, a different league calendar. That's it. They're the only options available. He can't come in and be sold to Barcelona or Bayern Munich or anyone. They're the only options available at the minute, unfortunately, which makes the situation so frustrating for him and for everybody concerned, because it didn't. It just hasn't gone the way anyone would have hoped. Chiesa is a simp for clearing, all for Gakpo to start. I wouldn't call him a simp, mate. I would say that he's an honest pro that cares, and that was what he did last night shows that in spades. You know, he gives a shit, and that's why so many of us love him. Because if some of the others put in that graft, even with two fingers being stuck up to him by the manager, that's why his song is getting sung. That's why fans have been won over by him. You know, he's a good, honest pro. Harry said, hope you're well. On the car on the way back from watching United West Ham. Slightly disappointed. Don't worry, my brother's driving, not me. Yeah, it's... look, I know we kind of banter back and forth, Liverpool fans, United fans, 1 week at you, 1 week at us, but, you know, I don't think either of our fan bases have much to be bragging about at the minute. It's... and you're not bragging, by the way, Harry. I'm just saying it's not great, mate, is it? You know, West Ham's a confidence builder, and you can't beat them. You lost to 10-man Everton. I'm not throwing any stones, dude. We're all over the shop. But, yeah, it's just miserable times for football at the minute. For us and for you lot. Uzi. So I watch American press conferences because I'm a Blackhawks fan of the NHL. And they're not suppressed nearly as much as the English press. Yep, absolutely. There's too much power of football clubs, you know, and there's too much this and that can't be asked, this subject can't be discussed. There's too much secrecy and a lack of transparency in football, and I don't like it. It's grubby, and nothing should be off the table outside the players' personal lives when it comes to asking questions. Nothing. Do you think that anything other than a win against Leeds will be the final straw, Craig? I think Klopp's legacy was too much for Slot to live up to. I truly don't know, guys. I don't know. He should have been sacked after Forest, and everything from here is just delaying the inevitable for me. Right, I got to start to wind this down because the preview is coming out now in a minute. Actually, it's out right now, I think, or it's coming out in the next 30 seconds. Tomorrow, same time, same place. I'll see you guys here, 8:45. We'll have a news video coming out as well. I work with a bunch of Arsenal fans, so it's hard, said Sam. I get it, man. I get it. Hey, Craig, hope you're doing well. Feel for Fede, said Tony. So do I, mate. So do I. And I'm doing okay, thank you. Appreciate you asking, Tony. The real Johnny Sin said, but Craig, the fans deserve to vent and hound them out. They do, but we don't want it to get toxic. But you're right, they should absolutely be able to have their say, my man. But, you know, none of us want it to get toxic. So look, ladies and gents, appreciate you. Thank you so much again for coming in tonight and having a chat with me. I'll see you tomorrow. Preview's coming out right now. So if you get a chance, do give it a watch. The podcast went up earlier on as well. Myself, Chris and Connor talked about everything you would expect us to talk about. Yeah, thank you so much for all of your support and kind words. And for helping me get through this real frustrating period as well. We'll see the other side of it at some point. But until then, have a